As far as our commitment to regenerative agriculture and being good stewards of the land, we have a 72-hour rule when it comes to accessing our roads. Within 72 hours of a rain event, we do not drive motorized vehicles on these trails. Now it has been 72 hours and you can see there's still moisture patterns. So we brought there's a forest mulcher back there in the woods right now. So the forest mulcher, you can see, has minimal impact on the ground because it is drier ground. It's not dry ground, but it's definitely drier ground. And so let's talk a little bit about road management, forest access management. I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. So this was cut by a forest mulcher and it's 2 paths. And I've brought everything down here from pickup trucks to dump trucks to trailers. And now the forest mulcher is back there. If you go on the roads at the appropriate times and even have little turnaround points, you should be able to navigate across your property without damaging the ground. Now, what do I mean by damage? First, damage from compaction. So I try to put my roads where there were historical roads. So I use a satellite, I use LiDAR, I use mapping software. I try to determine where there are historical roads and I improve those roads rather than putting new roads in. Second, I make sure that my roads are on contour or they're on a ridge line. So this is somewhat of a ridge line. Now there's some excavated soil over there and there was another farm road this way, but the farm road that was over here is too close to another road. So essentially I brought it over on the ridge where there looked like there was another farm road only based on compaction. So there's a compacted road just over there. They both enter in the same spot, but there's kind of a compacted road over here in the woods here. And you can kind of see how that travels there. But it curves up and it eventually touches the same place that it reaches up at the top there. So what I did instead is it looked like there were 2 roads that were kind of parallel. And then of course the property line's over there. So I chose this road here because it's more in the middle between the property line and a hard road on the other side. Now this is important because we're gonna do cell grazing for the goats and pigs. And you can kind of see in the woods over there, there's kind of a clear spot there. And we can make better cells designed this way. But either way, the road itself is on a ridge. It does go up the hill, and then when it gets to the top, it continues along the ridge to the clearing in the woods. It's gonna be our campsite, or our camp as in sheep camp, as in working farm location where we bring animals in at night, or we have nursed animals in and we have tents set up for people to stay in who are caring for the animals. If you haven't seen the article I put together about the nomadic farm caretaker, that's the model we're using. As part of regenerative agriculture, it's minimal impact on the land. So speaking of minimal impact on the land, when the soil is drier, you're less likely to have major damage. So you can see some track marks here, which is compacting the soil, but the track marks are not the whole way because the soil has had time to drain out. Now later, are we gonna put rocks on here? Yes, we might put rocks on it. I'll show you up here. We have a parking pad with rocks. So if you can't drive vehicles or motorized vehicles on the property within 72 hours of rain event, where do you put the vehicles? Well, up front in the property, we have a gravel parking pad, and then we'll probably end up graveling out this road, and then the entrance to our other, the other road point. So let's back up here and I'll show you what's going on here. So we have our center road that's on a ridge line. And then this over here was an original hardscape road. So this road over here has gravel in it. And it is part of an old road that we cleared out and we widened it up a little bit. So if there's gravel here and there's gravel over here, this number 357 gravel, which I'm very impressed with, we can drive on this all day long, whether it's wet or dry. Okay, so we're not driving on the farm roads when it's wet outside or when it's recently rained, but we can drive on this gravel. Now you might be saying, well, Justin, why don't you just put this gravel on all your roads? Well, this is expensive. And so if we're gonna run gravel on a couple miles of farm road, it's just probably cheaper and easier just to not drive on those roads when we've had a rain event. And it's only a mile to the back, so it's not that bad of a walk. So you can see the old tracked in gravel, and here's an example here. What's interesting is this stuff shows up on LiDAR. So LiDAR is a laser mapping system, and so you can probably find old roads on your property, and so it's better to go ahead and try to drive on the old roads rather than trying to establish new roads with construction. Now, I mentioned on contour. Many times on your property line, you don't have much choice on whether you're going to be on contour or off contour. But when you cross from property line to property line, you can, of course, go on contour. Now, why do we go on contour? Our roads on contour, because there's compaction, are going to move water from one side of the property to another. It's going to slow and spread the water. Water on contour tends to find level. Now, we have a little contour here from that road to this road over here. So we could, if we were going to cut out a section to allow us to drive down the property line, which would be an unpaved farm road, and we're going to connect with this graveled access road, which is, we're following the model for forestry access roads. This would be a cutoff from there all the way around to back there, and it would be leveled out. So when it rains, water would move off that line all the way across to the line over there, which tells us we need to have rock down. Because even though the movement of vehicles over top of the contour access point is compacting the ground, we don't want to be driving around in mud. So there's a problem we have down here with water sitting. So you can see here where the water comes in and the silt comes in, and then we get a wet, muddy spot. Well, the wet, muddy spots can accumulate bioorganisms, which we then get on the tires of the vehicle, and then we spread over to the property. So you have to be mindful of what is compaction going to do, where is water going to move, and then how are we going to navigate the property. Once this rock's down, I can't put a fence up. I can't just hammer in a fence. But a good farm road covered with grass, I can hammer in temporary fences and let the goats maintain it. So there's a couple aspects here. So when we design a farm road for your property, we're more likely to have roads like this. And I've driven a truck through here, and it doesn't have a lot of regular use. It recovers. It's starting to have some grass on it, but mostly has leaves. Ground like this is going to be for our more regularly accessed roads, our high traffic points. It may only be a patch here and there back in the woods, but ultimately requires a dump truck to get in and drop the material off. And in this, you can't put a temporary fence. Over there, you can hammer in a temporary fence all the time. In fact, this paint is from hammering in a temporary fence that I set up on this row to start to doing fence repairs. If we were on site, I could walk through all this and you could see it, because I know you can't see the contours with the camera. So if you're interested in farm access roads that are low cost, high value, give you more utility to your land, help you move through your land, and yes, offer you the opportunity for hiking trails, then visit www.prosperityhomestead.org. We can do a consultation and look at your property. I can show you how the LiDAR works. We can help you with a plan for your trail system and your road system. And what you'll very often find is if your land's been agricultural for a while, you're going to have these roads everywhere, or at least you're going to have opportunities for roads. And to start, you can actually even just have a footpath through the woods. So I'm showing right here, there's a couple animal trails here. You can use the animal trails to put up a temporary fence, enclose animals. Animals clear up the woods some. Then you forest mulch a path. Then you can put up a bigger fence, or you can have vehicle access. You need 13 feet wide for one-way traffic, which is general vehicle access. You need 21 feet wide for equipment to go back. So a dump truck is probably going to want 21 feet wide. And then to turn around, you need a radius of 21 feet. So you need to have kind of a bubble And so you do on long roads want to have some turnaround points. I base the road design on the Army Corps of Engineers and on the Department of Transportation. And then there's also a federal forestry guide. That is how we know that the roads are going to be stable and long-term, because you want to build a road once and use it for generations, because every pile of gravel is expensive. And again, that's why we use this big giant rock instead of the gravel that's typical for lawn. You need a big giant tandem dump truck to bring this gravel in, rather than the gravel that's typically used in driveways. This gravel locks in place. It ain't going anywhere. You can bring tractor trailers back here, and it goes in specific places. Farm roads like this, you can't bring vehicles on it within 72 hours of a rain event, and typically they're for low traffic areas because the ground will get compacted. Anyway, I could go on for days on this. I'm Justin Hitt, Prosperity Homestead. Visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org. Go to the contact page, ask your questions. I'll give you a more specific video. If you'd like to do a consultation, you'll find information about consultations there. If you're a member, then let's talk about this in group coaching, bring up some properties on a map and show you what I'm talking about when it comes to farm roads and access points, because again, we want to use every inch of that ag property. We want to be good stewards to that property. We want to exclude areas that have moisture and sensitive biomes, and then ultimately get the highest utility value of land without destroying it. Improve the ecology of it, improve the deer traffic, improve the wildlife. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.